The stars were cold and quiet. They always were in the outer reaches of human space. Captain Una Park stood at the bridge window of her ship, the horizon's edge, watching the darkness stretch out forever. She had been flying cargo routes for 15 years now. Medical supplies, food, equipment. Simple work for simple pay. She never asked for adventure. Adventure usually meant someone was dying. Her younger brother Taiho was down in the engine room, singing some old song their mother used to hum. She could hear him through the ship's old speakers. He was always happier when his hands were busy with machines. People confused him. Machines made sense. Eunji Cho sat at the navigation console, her fingers dancing over the controls. She had been a military officer once, back when she still believed the government knew what it was doing. Now she just wanted to fly far from Earth and forget the politics that made her. Tired. The year was 2347. Humanity had spread to 12 worlds beyond Earth. They had built cities on moons and stations in asteroid belts. They had done all of this in the shadow of the Volther hegemony. The hegemony was old. Older than human civilization. Older than human memory. 17 species had joined together under Voltheri rule over 40,000 years ago. They controlled most of the galaxy. They had technology that humans could barely understand. They had fleets that numbered in the millions. And they did not care about humans at all. To the hegemony. Humans were like insects, small, weak, unimportant. Humanity paid tribute to the hegemony. Humanity followed hegemony laws. Humanity accepted its place at the bottom of the galactic order. Most humans had learned to live with this. What choice did they have? Una remembered her grandfather telling her stories about the first contact. The Voltheri had arrived at Earth like gods descending from heaven. They had looked at human cities, human art, human science, and they had laughed. Not out loud, but their eyes had laughed. That was worse. The distress signal came at 0300 hours, ship time. Eunji saw it first. Her body went stiff. Her face went pale. "Captain," she said, and her voice was wrong. Too flat. Too empty. Una walked to the console and looked at the data. A distress signal from the Kepler frontier. 3 colony ships. The Faithful Dawn, the New Promise, and the Bright Tomorrow. 14,000 people. Families going to start new lives on a new world. The signal was weak. Broken. Dying. Yuna made the decision in one heartbeat. Change course. Maximum speed. They found the wreckage 4 hours later. Taiho came up from the engine room when the ship went quiet. He stood next to his sister and looked out the window. He did not speak. There were no words for what they saw. The 3 colony ships were torn apart. Metal floated in the darkness like dead leaves. Bodies drifted between the pieces. Thousands of bodies. Whole families still holding hands. Children still clutching toys. Eunji's hands were shaking. She was checking the sensor data again and again, like she was hoping it would change. It did not change. Who did this? Taiho whispered. Una was already looking at the weapon signatures, the energy patterns, the attack vectors. She knew these signatures. Everyone who flew in space knew them. Hegemony weapons? She said. Eunji shook her head. That's impossible. The hegemony has no reason to attack colony ships. We follow every rule. We pay every tribute. But the data did not lie. Hegemony weapons had done this. Hegemony ships had killed 14,000 innocent people. Una recorded everything. Every piece of wreckage. Every body. Every weapon burn. She sent the data back to Earth on the fastest signal her ship could produce. Then she waited. The response came from Admiral Dawan Lim himself. He was an old man with a tired face and eyes that had seen too much. He looked at Yuna through the screen and said nothing for a long moment. "We receive your transmission," he finally said. "The Parliament is meeting now. What will they do?" Yuna asked. "They will demand answers from the Hegemony Council." And they did. Earth's representatives stood before the Great Hegemony Council and showed them the evidence. They showed them the dead children. They showed them the weapon signatures. They demanded justice. The Hegemony Council listened. They looked at the evidence. And then they spoke. "This is an internal human matter," the Council declared. "The Hegemony takes no responsibility for the actions of independent factions. The matter is closed." Yuna watched the broadcast in her small cabin. She watched the human representatives stand there with their mouths open. She watched them realize what the galaxy truly thought of them, independent factions. That was what the Council called them. The Purifiers. A group within the Hegemony that believed humans were a disease. A contamination. A mistake that needed to be corrected. Everyone knew about them. Everyone knew they wanted humanity dead. And the Council did nothing. Taiho found his sister staring at the wall. Her eyes were dry. Her face was calm. But her hands were closed into fists so tight that her nails had drawn blood from her palms. "Yuna," he said softly. "They don't see us as people," she said. Her voice was quiet, almost gentle. 14,000 of us are dead. Children are dead. And they called it an internal matter. She looked at her brother. He had never seen that look in her eyes before. It scared him. "That changes today," she said. "One way or another. That changes today." Far away on Earth, Admiral Do-Wan Lim was saying the same thing. He was standing in a secret room, looking at plans he had been making for 30 years. Plans he had hoped he would never need. He needed them now. Humanity had been patient. Humanity had been peaceful. Humanity had been humble. Humanity had been wrong. Earth had never felt so small. The blue planet hung in space like a fragile marble, surrounded by darkness and stars that belonged to someone else. In the great halls of the United Colonial Parliament, voices rose and fell like waves crashing against rocks. Some called for peace. Some called for patience. Some said humanity should apologize, should pay more tribute, should bow even lower than before. But most of them were angry. A deep, cold anger that had been building for 300 years. Admiral Do-Wan Lim stood before the Parliament. He was 73 years old. His hair was white. His shoulders were bent. But his voice was strong. "For 3 decades," he said, "I have prepared for this day. I prayed it would never come. But I knew it would." He pressed a button, and the walls of the Parliament chamber became windows into space. But not the space everyone knew. These images showed hidden places. Asteroid belts where the sun never reached. Moons where no colony had ever been built. Shipyards. Hundreds of them. Building ships in secret. Ships with weapons that gleamed like angry stars. Project Black Star, the Admiral said. 200 warships. Built with technology we took from Hegemony Rex. Improved with innovations they have never seen. The Parliament fell silent. For a long moment, no one moved. Then a young woman stood up. Her name was Ji-Woo Han. She was a physicist who had spent her entire life studying hegemony technology. Her teachers had called her brilliant. Her enemies had called her dangerous. "Their shields operate on harmonic frequencies," Ji-Woo said. "I have found a way to disrupt them. Their weapons will pass through our shields. But our weapons will pass through theirs too." Another figure rose. Minho Kang was a soldier who had never fought in a real war. He had only studied them. Every battle in human history. Every tactic. Every strategy. And every battle the hegemony had ever fought. "They are rigid," Minho said. "Their command structure has not changed in 10,000 years. They expect enemies to fight the way they fight. We will not. We will swarm. We will scatter. We will strike where they do not expect. And we will vanish before they can respond. A third person stepped forward. Sujin Beek was quiet. She rarely spoke in public. But when she did, people listened. She was the greatest cybersecurity expert humanity had ever produced. I am inside their networks, she said simply. They do not know. They think their systems are perfect. They are wrong. The parliament voted that night. Not for total war. They were not ready for that. Not yet. But for justice. One strike. One message. Against the purifiers who had killed 14,000 innocent people. Captain Yuna Park volunteered to lead the assault group. Her brother Taiho tried to stop her. This is not a cargo run, he said. They were standing in the loading bay of the Horizon's Edge. The ship was being fitted with new weapons. It looked different now, sharper, angrier. You could die out there. Yuna looked at him. Her eyes were calm. Her voice was steady. Those were our people, Taiho. Families, children. If we do not answer this, we are telling the entire galaxy that human lives do not matter. That we accept our place as insects. That we are too afraid to fight. She put her hand on his shoulder. I refuse to believe that, she said. I refuse to live in a universe where that is true. Taiho looked at his sister for a long moment. Then he nodded. Then I am coming with you, he said. Someone has to keep the engines running. Yoonji Cho was already at the navigation console when they arrived at the bridge. She did not look surprised to see them. I plotted the course 3 days ago, she said. I was waiting for you to catch up. The assault fleet gathered in the shadow of Jupiter. 63 ships. Most of them were small, fast, built for hit-and-run attacks. But they carried weapons that could crack planets. Yuna stood at the center of the command ship and looked at the faces around her. Young faces, old faces, scared faces, determined faces. They were teachers and farmers and engineers and doctors. They were not soldiers, but they were human. And humans did not give up. The purifier base is in the Karath system, Yuna said. It is a fortress. The hegemony considers it unbreakable. Today, we break it. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. The stars stretched into lines. Space folded around them like paper. When they arrived at Karath, the purifiers were not ready. Sujin's virus hit their communication systems first. Their commanders could not talk to their ships. Their ships could not coordinate their defense. In the first 30 seconds, chaos spread through their ranks like fire through dry grass. Jiwoo shield disruptors came next. The purifier weapons bounced off human shields like rain off stone. But human weapons cut through purifier shields like they were made of paper. Minho's tactics turned the battle into a dance. Human ships swarmed around the larger purifier vessels. They struck from every direction. They disappeared before the enemy could aim. They appeared again where no one expected them. The purifier fortress, which had stood for 1,000 years, fell in 4 hours. Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship and watched it burn. She felt no joy. She felt no satisfaction. She felt only a cold, hard certainty that this was just the beginning. Sujin made sure the entire battle was broadcast across every hegemony channel. Every species in the galaxy saw what happened. They saw humans small, weak, insignificant humans destroy a fortress that the hegemony had called invincible. The message was clear. It was written in fire and blood. We are not prey. We are not insects. We are not going to disappear quietly. Push us again. We dare you. The Hegemony Council met in emergency session. They were not used to emergencies. They were not used to being challenged. They were not used to fear, but they felt it now. For the first time in 40,000 years, they felt it. Their response was quick and brutal. They declared humanity a rogue species. They authorized total war. They sent a fleet of 10,000 ships toward human space. They expected humanity to run, to hide, to beg for mercy. They had no idea what they had just awakened. The hegemony had fought wars before, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Every war had ended the same way. The enemy surrendered. The enemy paid tribute. The enemy learned their place. This war was different. Commander Hyunsu Jang was a simple man from a simple colony. New Bison was a farming world. Green hills, blue lakes, quiet people who wanted quiet lives. When the hegemony fleet arrived in orbit, everyone expected him to surrender. He did not surrender. The hegemony landed 50,000 soldiers on New Bison. They expected to take the planet in a week. They were wrong. Hyunsu had studied history. He knew that big armies could be beaten by small groups who knew the land. He knew that patience was a weapon. He knew that fear could spread from the hunter to the hunted. He took his people into the mountains, into the tunnels, into the forests, and he fought. Every night, hegemony patrols disappeared. Every morning, their bodies were found in places that should have been safe. Supply convoys were destroyed. Communication towers were knocked down. Officers were killed in their sleep. The hegemony soldiers began to look over their shoulders. They began to jump at shadows. They began to refuse orders that sent them into the wilderness alone. After 3 months, the hegemony controlled the capital city. Only the capital city. Everything else belonged to Hyunsu and his fighters. After 6 months, the hegemony sent reinforcements. 50,000 more soldiers. It did not help. After 11 months, the hegemony commander sent a message back to the council. "We cannot hold this planet," he wrote. "We do not understand these creatures. They do not know when they are beaten. They do not stop. I have never seen anything like this." The council was confused. They had conquered entire civilizations. They had crushed rebellions that spanned star systems. How could one small planet resist them? They did not understand humans. In space, Admiral Do Wan Lim was teaching them another lesson. The hegemony had big ships, powerful ships, ships that could destroy moons with a single shot. But big ships were slow. Big ships needed supplies. Big ships followed predictable routes. Lim's fleet was small and fast. They called it the Hornet Doctrine. Strike quick. Strike hard. Disappear before the enemy can respond. Human ships attacked supply convoys in the middle of the night. They destroyed communication stations and vanished into asteroid fields. They hit patrol groups and were gone before reinforcements could arrive. The hegemony lost more ships in 1 year than they had lost in the previous 1,000 years combined. Their supply lines stretched thin. Their fleets grew hungry. Their soldiers grew tired. And still the humans kept coming. Ji Wuhan worked without sleep. Her laboratory was a mess of equipment and data screens. Empty coffee cups covered every surface. Her team of scientists looked like ghosts, pale and exhausted. But they kept working. They kept inventing new shields that could take twice the punishment. New weapons that could hit targets from twice the distance. New engines that could outrun anything the hegemony had. The hegemony's own scientists watched in horror. They had not invented anything new in centuries. Why would they? Their technology was perfect. Their methods were proven. Innovation was unnecessary. But humans innovated like they breathed. Every battle taught them something. Every defeat made them stronger. Every problem was just a puzzle waiting to be solved. Sujin Beek sat in a dark room filled with glowing screens. She was deep inside the hegemony's networks now. She read their messages. She watched their plans. She knew what they were thinking before they knew it themselves. And she planted seeds of doubt. Messages that arrived late. Orders that were changed by a single word. Reports that contained small errors. Nothing obvious, nothing traceable. Just enough to make the hegemony commanders question each other. Trust, she had learned, was like glass. Once cracked, it never fully healed. The war was brutal. Humanity paid a terrible price. 3 colony worlds fell to the hegemony. Millions of humans died. Cities burned. Families were torn apart. But for every world that fell, humanity became more united, more determined, more dangerous. On Earth, people who had never agreed on anything came together. Old enemies shook hands. Old grudges were forgotten. For the first time in history, all of humanity spoke with one voice. We will not surrender. We will not break. We will fight until we win or until there is no one left to fight. Other species began to notice. The hegemony had ruled through 40,000 years. Smaller species lived in their shadow, afraid to speak, afraid to act, afraid to hope. They had watched civilizations rise and fall. They had seen what happened to those who resisted, but now they saw something new. They saw humans, young, small, weak humans standing against the masters of the galaxy. They saw humans winning battles that should have been impossible. They saw humans refusing to break. Whispers spread through the galaxy, in hidden corners, in secret meetings. In languages the hegemony did not understand. The humans cannot be broken. Maybe we cannot be broken either. Admiral Lim stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at a star map. Red dots marked hegemony territory. Blue dots marked human space. The red dots still outnumbered the blue dots by 100 to 1. But the blue dots were growing. Una Park stood beside him. She was not a captain anymore. She commanded a battle group now. 50 ships that answered to her. We are still losing, she said quietly. By every measure, we are losing. Lin nodded. Yes, but they expected to win in a month. It has been 2 years. Their economy is straining. Their people are asking questions. Their allies are watching with new eyes. He turned to look at her. We do not need to beat them, he said. We just need to prove that we cannot be beaten. The rest will follow. Una thought about this. She thought about her brother, still keeping the engines running on her command ship. She thought about Yunji, now leading her own squadron. She thought about all the people who had died, and all the people still fighting. How much longer? She asked. Lim smiled. It was a tired smile, but real. Not much longer, he said. I can feel it. The universe is about to change. He was right. But even he did not know how much. 3 years of war had changed everything. The galaxy that existed before was gone. Something new was being born in blood and fire. Fleet Commander Una Park stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Dawn's Fury. It was the largest ship humanity had ever built. But today it felt small. Today she was leading the biggest human offensive in history. Their target was Nexus Prime. Nexus Prime was the heart of the hegemony's war machine. Massive shipyards stretched across the system like metal spiderwebs. Factories produced weapons day and night. Supply ships came and went like blood cells in a great body. If Nexus Prime fell, the hegemony would lose the ability to replace its losses. The war would change forever. Una looked at the fleet around her. 400 ships. Every vessel humanity could spare. Teachers who had become pilots. Farmers who had become soldiers. Ordinary people who had found extraordinary courage. They were outnumbered 5 to 1. Minho Kang stood at the tactical display, his fingers moving across screens faster than the eye could follow. He had planned this battle for 6 months. Every movement, every attack, every possible response. They expect us to hit the outer defenses first, he said. That is what logic says. That is what their manuals say. He smiled. It was not a nice smile. We are going straight for the heart. Taiho Park was down in the engine room, as always. He had not left the ship in 2 years. He said the engines needed him. The truth was, he needed them too. When he was working on machines, he did not have to think about the war, but he thought about it anyway. Every night, he saw the faces of people he had lost, friends who had died in battles, colleagues who had not come home. He wondered when his turn would come. Then he pushed the thoughts away and went back to work. The engines needed him. The fleet jumped into the Nexus Prime system at midnight, local time. They came out of faster-than-light travel in the middle of the hegemony formation, exactly where no one expected them. Sujinbeek's virus activated at the same moment. Half of the hegemony's targeting systems went blind. Their communication networks filled with garbage data. Ships crashed into each other as their navigation computers gave wrong directions. Ji Wuhan's shield disruptors came online. Human weapons tore through hegemony armor. Hegemony weapons bounced off human shields. The technological advantage that had protected the hegemony for millennia was suddenly gone. The battle was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. Human ships swarmed through the hegemony formation like angry bees. They struck from every direction. They disappeared into the smoke and fire and appeared somewhere else. They fought with a fury that the galaxy had never seen. Commander Hyun-Soo Jang was there. He had left New Bizen after the hegemony finally retreated. His guerrilla fighters had become Marines. They boarded hegemony ships and took them from the inside. Yoon-ji Cho commanded her own battle group now. 30 ships that moved like one creature. She had learned to read the battlefield like her old navigation charts. She always knew where to be. She always knew when to strike. The battle lasted 18 hours. Yuna did not sleep. She did not eat. She stood at her command post and made decision after decision. Lives hung on every choice. She felt the weight of it crushing her. She kept standing anyway. The turning point came in hour 15. A hegemony dreadnought broke through the human line. It was heading straight for the flagship. Its weapons were charged. There was no time to dodge. Commander Hyun-Soo Jang saw it coming. He was in a small frigate 50 kilometers away. Too far to help. He did not hesitate. He turned his ship toward the dreadnought and pushed the engines to maximum. His crew looked at him with wide eyes. They understood what he was doing. They did not try to stop him. "It has been an honor," Hyun-Soo said into the radio. His voice was calm, peaceful. His frigate hit the dreadnought at full speed. The explosion lit up the sky. Yuna felt tears on her cheeks. She wiped them away and kept fighting. That was what Hyun-Soo would have wanted. 3 hours later, the shipyards were burning. The hegemony fleet was running. The battle was won, but the cost was terrible. 40% of the human fleet was destroyed. Thousands of people would never go home. Hyun-Soo Jang would never see his green hills and blue lakes again. Yuna stood on the bridge and watched the flames. She did not feel victory. She felt tired. So very tired. Yoon-Ji Cho's voice came over the radio. She sounded strange, excited, scared. "Commander, we captured a hegemony diplomatic vessel. You need to see what we found." The vessel contained secrets. Secrets the hegemony had kept for centuries. Records of communication between council members. Plans they thought no one would ever see. Several species in the hegemony wanted out. They had been watching the war. They had seen what humans could do. For the first time in their history, they believed that resistance was possible. The Rithani Collective, the Murin Freeholds, the Kelix Confederacy. All of them were planning to defect. Sujinbeek looked at the data with wide eyes. "This changes everything," she whispered. Yuna nodded slowly. A new feeling was growing in her chest. Not hope exactly. Something stronger. "Contact them," she said. "Tell them we are ready to talk." The cracks in the hegemony had been growing for 3 years. Now, They were about to become chasms. Back on Earth, Admiral Do-hwan Lim received the news. He was in the hospital now. The war had broken his body, but his mind was still sharp. He smiled when he read the reports. Then he closed his eyes and whispered a prayer for the dead. "Almost there," he said to no one. "We are almost there." The universe was about to change forever, and humanity would be the ones to change it. The final battle would be above Velthury Prime, the homeworld of the species that had ruled the galaxy since before humans discovered fire. The heart of an empire that had lasted 40,000 years. Fleet Commander Una Park looked at the planet through her bridge window. It was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across a peaceful sky. It looked like Earth. She wondered if the Velthury thought of it the way humans thought of Earth, home, safety, everything worth protecting. She hoped they did. It would make what came next mean something. The human fleet was battered. 300 ships, many of them held together by repairs and prayers. They had come from every human colony, every station, every hidden base. This was everything humanity had left. Against them stood the hegemony's final defensive fleet. 2,000 ships, the largest, most powerful vessels ever built. Crewed by warriors who had never known defeat. The numbers said humanity should lose. The numbers had been wrong before, but today, the numbers did not tell the whole story. Behind the human fleet, more ships were arriving. Strange ships. Ships with designs humanity had never seen. The Rithani Collective came first. Their vessels looked like living creatures, smooth and organic. They had been slaves to the hegemony for 10,000 years. Today they were free. The Murin freeholds came next. Their ships were covered in weapons, bristling like angry animals. They had watched the hegemony crush their ancestors. They had waited for this moment for generations. The Kelix Confederacy arrived last. Their fleet was small but fast. They had suffered more than any other species. They had more reason to fight. Yuna watched them take their positions alongside the human ships. Her heart was beating fast. Not from fear, from something else. Something she had not felt in years. Hope. Admiral Do-hwan Lim's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. He was on his flagship, the Earth's Fury. He had left the hospital against his doctor's orders. He had said he would not miss this. He had said he had not come this far to die in a bed. Today, the Admiral said, we end 40,000 years of fear. Today, we prove that no species is destined to rule, that no empire lasts forever. That freedom is not a gift from the powerful. It is a right that we take for ourselves. He paused. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. Many of us will not see tomorrow. I may not see tomorrow, but our children will, and their children, and their children after them. They will live in a galaxy where they do not have to bow, where they do not have to be afraid, where they can look up at the stars and know that they belong there. He took a breath. For those who came before us, for those who come after, for every species that ever dreamed of being free. The channel went silent for a moment. Then Yuna's voice filled the void. All ships, attack. The battle was apocalyptic. Weapons. Fire lit up the darkness like a second sun. Ships exploded in balls of flame that briefly outshone the stars. The screams of the dying mixed with the roars of the living. Taiho Park was in the engine room of the Dawn's Fury, working miracles. The ship had taken hits that should have killed them all. But he kept the engines running. He kept the shields up. He kept his sister alive. Jiwoo Han was on the command ship, coordinating the fleet-wide shield harmonics. Her calculations had to be perfect. One mistake and the entire fleet would be vulnerable. Her hands shook. Her mind did not doubt Su Jinbeek was in the digital realm, fighting a war no one else could see. The hegemony's targeting network was her battlefield. Every second, she crashed another system. Every second, she saved another ship. Minho Kang stood beside Yuna, calling out tactics faster than thought. He had planned for this battle his entire life. Every simulation, every study, every sleepless night. It all came down to this. Admiral Lim's flagship was surrounded. 10 hegemony ships against 1. The old man should have retreated. He should have run. He did not run. All power to weapons, he ordered. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. The hegemony command dreadnought was ahead of him. The supreme commander of all hegemony forces was aboard. The one who had ordered the massacre of 14,000 civilians. The one who had called humans insects. Lim aimed his ship at the dreadnought and pushed the engines to maximum. For humanity, he said. The explosion was visible from Velthury Prime. Yuna saw it through tear-filled eyes. She did not stop. She could not stop. The Admiral would not want her to stop. Eung Cho led her battle group through a gap in the enemy line. They struck the rear of the hegemony formation like a hammer. Ships fell before her like leaves in autumn. The allied species fought with a fury born of centuries of oppression. The Rithani swarmed over hegemony vessels like wolves bringing down elk. The Marin punched through enemy armor with weapons that glowed like angry suns. The Kellics darted through the chaos, striking weak points with surgical precision. The tide was turning. The hegemony supreme commander was dead. Their communication network was in chaos. Their formation was breaking. For the first time in 40,000 years, they were losing. Yuna led the final assault on the orbital defenses. Her ship was damaged. Her crew was exhausted. She did not care. The last hegemony station fell at dawn, Velthury time. The first rays of sunlight touched a world that was no longer the capital of an empire. The surrender came 3 hours later. Yuna stood on her broken bridge and watched the Hegemony Council appear on her screen. They were old and afraid. They expected conquest. They expected revenge. They expected to be treated the way they had treated others. Yuna spoke slowly, clearly, so that every species in the galaxy could understand. "We are not here to rule you," she said. "We are not here for revenge. We are here to end an era of fear. Every species, including yours, deserves to be free." She paused. "The hegemony is over. But we are not conquerors. We are liberators. And today, the galaxy starts again." 10 years later, the Galactic Accord had replaced the hegemony. A coalition of equals. No masters. No slaves. Just species working together, building something new. Yuna Park retired to a small farm on New Bizin, near the memorial for Commander Him Su-jing and all the others who had died. Her brother Taiho visited every month. They did not talk about the war. They talked about the weather and the crops and the small things that made life worth living. Yoonji Cho became the first human ambassador to the Velthury. It was hard work. The wounds were deep. But she was patient. She had learned patience from the stars. Ji Wuhan taught physics at the new Galactic University. Her students came from every species. They asked her about the war sometimes. She told them to study peace instead. Minho Kang wrote a book about the war. It was called The Last War. He hoped that title would be true. Su Jinbeek disappeared. No one knew where she went. Some said she was still out there, watching, protecting, making sure no one tried to build another empire. Throughout the galaxy, a story spread. It was told in 100 languages, on 1,000 worlds, by species who had never seen Earth's sun. It was the story of a small, young, fragile species that was pushed too far. And when they pushed back, The universe shook. The stars were no longer cold and quiet. They were full of hope. They would never be the same again.